Enterprise Business Division. This division incorporates a complete portfolio of solutions ranging from printing, displays, notebook, tablet, PC, set-top box, hospitality, digital signage. I guess I could keep going on and on. I had an opportunity to spend a few minutes with Todd, and as I said to Todd, I said 4 years ago, Samsung wouldn't have been on the long list to speak in front of this group. And in a short period of time, Samsung now is here at this event as a keynote speaker, which says an awful lot about Samsung, and it also says a lot about the importance that they may have to our channel. So I know we are all quite interested in hearing what Todd has to say. Todd himself spent, prior to Samsung, which he joined in 2012, was the man at Canon Business Solutions. He was the president since 2009, and he had spent 19 years at Canon. So it's a gentleman that knows our business. He was also in Canon Canada as well as Canon USA. And prior to that, Todd has spent some time with Xerox in the various sales leadership roles. So that being said, I can tell you, Todd, myself and all of us are very anxious to hear what you have to say and what Samsung has to say to all of us. So please, a round of applause for Tod Pike.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me add my welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mike, for your kind introductions, and thanks to Brent for inviting me. Brent and I have known one another for a long time. This is the first time I've spoken at the BTA conference, so I'm really happy to be here and happy to have a chance to spend some time with you. So before I start going through my presentation, I'm going to take a little bit of time and I'm going to talk about the experiences that I've had in my career. And I do it for two reasons, neither one of which is that I like to talk about myself, because I don't want to talk about myself. But I think for this audience, I think it's important that you understand or have the perspective from where I came that allowed me to formulate the opinions that I have. And so I'm going to be talking to you as friends today and giving you some advice and giving you my opinions, and maybe it's important for you to understand some of the experiences that I've had that helped to formulate that. Secondly is I want to talk a little bit about myself, because Brent was kind enough to give me about an hour and 15 minutes to talk to you. If I told you that everything I know about every subject I know anything about, it would take me about an hour. So if I talk a little bit more about my career, it's for that purpose. So I've been in the copy business my whole career. I started out selling Xerox copiers with brochures in the back of the Toyota in 1977 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I spent 16 years with Xerox and had a good but not crazy career at Xerox. I ended up as district manager after a series of sales and sales management and branch positions. I became district manager in New York, downtown Manhattan. I had that job for 3 years, and I was a kid. I was in my mid-30s, and we were running a nice $130 million business in New York. Career kind of leveled out at that point, because the next step is to go to Rochester. With all due respect to anybody who might be in the room in Rochester, I just didn't want to go. And so I started taking the headhunter calls, and I picked a good one, I thought. And ended up joining Canon and spent 19 years there. But my first job at Canon was to run and serve as president at Canon Business Solutions in New York City. We had 8 offices, and when I took it over, I was working with Ed McLaughlin. I just went ahead and walk in. There's that. And we had, it was a $72 million dealership in the New York metropolitan area. And I did that for 3 years. So we grew it from $72 million to $127 million, which got me deported. So I ended up in Canada for 3 years running the Canadian business. And good for me, I had responsibility in my own wheelhouse, which was the direct business. And because I was president of a company of but it was the first time that I had an opportunity to run product marketing and sales to the dealers. So that's the first time I had that experience. And so on one hand, I kind of did jobs very similar to the nature of the jobs that you do, knowing full well that I had never done the job that you do as a BTA dealer, because this is your money. This is, your money on the line, and your payroll is very different than my experience. But nonetheless, had the same experience of buying from a manufacturer, being upset with a manufacturer, complaining the same way that you all do, or trying to work synergistically with them. But when I was up in Canada, I had my first chance to sell to the dealer community. And I really had no idea. I mean, I had competed with dealers. I mean, I had a healthy respect for Jerry Blaine and Leslie in the New York metropolitan area for a number of years. But for the first time, I get to go and call on Alco Standard, or soon to be Icon Office Solutions. And doing that, the leaders of Icon in Canada were all based out in Calgary and Vancouver. So of course I had to fly there, fly all the way over there, and we go to a conference room, and they'd yell at me for an hour, and take a break, and go back in, and they'd yell at me for another hour. And then I'd go home, and this life would go on. And then I'd go the next day, and I would go call on an independently owned dealer, literally in my career for the first time. And I'd go meet people like Doug Bell in Belleville, Ontario, and we'd go into a conference room, and we'd talk about the business, we talk about his marketplace, and talk about his customers, and how to grow his business, and what he needs, what he's willing to invest, what he needs us to invest, and had a real solid kind of marketplace discussion with not only Doug, but a number of dealers up in Canada. And it certainly developed at that point a real healthy respect. Plus, of course, when the day was over, Doug would invite you over to his house and meet his wife and kids and have a drink and go out to dinner. And it was one of those kinds of relationships. And it was during that period of time that I really came to appreciate what the BTA dealer can do, and the type of strong relationship that's important to have a strong manufacturer business. So I came back after 3 years, and I had an opportunity for 10 years to run sales and marketing for Canon USA, and had responsibility for marketing, but also selling through the dealers and to the dealers in the U.S. And that's where I formed a lot of relationships that I did over time. And during that time, a couple of things. Number one, my respect for and admiration of the BTA dealer grew immensely, and our business grew immensely. The business during that period of time kept growing, and invariably, the BTA portion, the independently owned dealer portion of that business grew the fastest. So again, came to rely upon all of you and your brethren for the business. Then the world changed, and Xerox bought Global, and Konica Minolta bought Denka, and Ricoh bought Icon, and as we liked to kid at the time, Canon bought Lunch. So at that point, I lobbied for and got some support to go off and run Canon Business Solutions, which at that point was the amalgamation of my prior company, MCS, and others around the country, and had grown up. And my task was to go off and build that business up, which I went and I did for 3 years. Got a little itchy, merging with OSE, looking at merging two big businesses, downsizing, trying to maintain profitability and try to maintain the business size, and all of a sudden another call came in, and a couple years ago in December, and I started to talk to Samsung, who had a vision for growing the business exponentially, and I'll get to that a little bit later on, but that's why I'm here today. So anyway, that's my perspective. So as I give you my opinions today, it is from that perspective that I offer them to you. So what I want to do today is tell you a great story. And it would be great in this industry to be able to stand up for an hour and tell you a great story. It's a little ironic in view of the fact that if you stick to your knitting and you're in the copier and printer business and the hard copy imaging business, the business is shrinking. These are IDC numbers, but and anybody who's who's speaking about the business will share that on a compounded annual growth rate basis, we're going to shrink. And so this is maybe not the context for a great story, but nonetheless, I'd like to tell you a great story. So I want to tell you why I'm going to tell you a great story. Number one is I'm going to take a little bit of time, and I'm going to tell you why I think you're great, why I think the BTA dealer is great, why we are so enamored of this channel, why I personally am so enamored, and why you all have a real competitive strength. And there are 5 reasons why I think that that's the case. Then I'm going to talk about what it's going to take to stay great. And I'm going to talk about 7 different reasons why, or things that I think you need to do, or if I were in your shoes, this is what I would do. I'm going to give you 7 ideas, one of which is just to continue to do the great things that you do. And then tomorrow morning, Frank and I is going to chair a panel, and he gets to either agree with me or disagree with me. It's the power of having the microphone last, but I'll hang around and listen to Frank's opinions. He's been a friend of mine for many, many years, and I certainly always value his analysis and his view, and I'll be interested to hear, since the subjects are very close to one another. Lastly, I'm going to take a very short period of time for the amount of time that I have and talk about my company. So I'd really like to, at the very end, kind of wrap this up and talk a little bit about Samsung. So why are dealers great? The first one is you get better service. The customer orientation, the service that you provide is better. And I think it's important that for the purposes of that conversation, we realize that you all are basically competing with the manufacturers. You're not competing necessarily with your own manufacturer, maybe you are, but you're competing with manufacturers, right? And that's the competitive landscape today. There is some, intra-channel competition, inter-dealer competition. I understand that, but for the most part, you're competing with the manufacturers, and you provide better service. And I told you my whole story because I wanted you to know that I've run both sides of the business. And if there are 2 customers who call their vendors on a Friday afternoon, and they need a machine moved on a Sunday, and one of them is calling a BTA dealer, and the other is calling a manufacturer, 2 very different outcomes happen. In the case of the BTA dealer, that machine gets moved on Sunday. And in the other case, a form gets filled out on Monday, because of the processes that go in to the approvals and the profitability measurement associated with running some of those big companies. It's an advantage that you have, it's an orientation that you have, and it's something that just can't be undersold relative to the advantages that you have in the business. The other thing is that these direct organizations have all gone national. They're big businesses, and so the people who are making decisions at the very highest levels are making decisions on a national basis. So they look at response time one month and they say, okay, response time was 3 hours and 47 minutes. Not too bad. Last month was 3 hours and 45 minutes. What's lost on the decision makers is that the response time in Dallas is 10 hours and the response time in Seattle is a day. And that invariably is going to happen in large organizations where you have the advantage of being able to control that service offering on a local level. So number one, you provide better service, you have greater customer orientation. Number 2 is you provide best of breed. If you don't carry multiple lines, you ought to. If I were in your shoes selling 5 things that you have today, it would be high up on the list. Because if you walk into a customer and you're only selling one device or one set, one portfolio of software, how are you competing? What's the advantage that you've got? And how are you reaching the markets that one manufacturer will give you? So best of breed in terms of both hardware and in terms of software, either from the manufacturers with whom you do business or not, is a way to differentiate yourself and go to your customer base and offer them something that is unique and different. Is a big selling point. You provide better service and you provide best of breed technologies. You're local. You're involved in the Chamber of Commerce. You donate money to local charities, you're visible, you're in the newspaper, you're local. Reality is there's probably a small percentage or some percentage of your buyers who will actually buy from you for that reason and that reason alone. There are some who will do that. But everybody is influenced by it. Everybody in the back of their mind is enamored of the whole idea that they can buy from somebody local. And even, I dare say, some of the enterprise customers. And I think that this is something clearly that can't be undersold. You're adaptable, and the business is changing, and I'm sure everybody who's come onto this podium or going to talk to you for the next couple of days is going to talk about how the nature of the business has changed, and you have to go into a services offering, you have to create solutions for your customers. It's really hard to do that on a national basis. Really hard to do it. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to do on a local basis, but you can either acquire a local bar, you can partner with a local bar, you can partner with a local facilities management company. You can react to changes in the marketplaces and shifts in a way that no national organization could ever do. You're adaptable. Lastly, you're nice people. The nice people is one thing, but the working with a BTA dealer, generally speaking, you have long tenured employees. And the long tenured employees who get to know your customers and get to know your community is a significant advantage over an organization that promotes people and moves them from Dallas to Seattle to New York in a career building type of a way. So those are the 5 things that I wanted to tell you on why you're great. And I hope you believe in those 5. I hope you probably add a 6th and a 7th and then 8th, but I would certainly encourage you to reinforce those. So now I'm going to talk about what it's going to take to stay great, and I'm going to go through 7 areas. The first one, I'm going to take a little bit of time to emphasize the current greatness. I am going to talk about managed print services because if you're not, all in on managed print services, you're missing a boat. I'm going to talk about kind of share of wallet. I'm going to talk about managed image services, but only as an example of the types of things that you can grow into and add to your portfolio. I'm going to talk about the trends, and there's 7 key trends that we see, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what your dealership needs to do to address those. This is going to be a little bit different, perhaps. I'm going to talk a little bit about the need to address the change in the way the IT buyer and copier buyer is going to buy things today and in the future, and shifting a model of sales approach to a more inside model as opposed to a field sales model. And I'll tell you why I feel strongly about that. I'm going to suggest to you that you need to power disruption. I appreciated, was it Greg who spoke before from Oki? I thought he, by the way, did a great job in promoting his company, and I frankly would believe in a lot of the things that he was talking about. But powering the disruption from A3 and A4 is a key to future success, and I'll speak a little bit about that. And then I'll tell you that size matters. If I were a BTA dealer right now, I would be most worried in many ways about how big my organization is going to be in the years to come. So those are going to be the 7 things I want to talk about today. So first, you gotta be committed to the things that you do well. This is what I think you do well, right? I think you do these 5 things well. You please disagree with them or add to what you have, but you've got to be committed to it, you've got to display it, you've got to sell it, you've got to really promote it in the marketplace. As the direct manufacturers, the situations where they're going to lose the most is when their customer is interested in these things, and they're buying because of these things. So to the extent that you can promote these things, or again, whatever else is on your docket as being something that you're most proud of, I'm going to encourage you to continue to promote those things. So managed print services. So the landscape's changing. We all grew up in the copier-based MFP world, because the administrative buyers bought products and the IT people bought the single-function printers. And now those worlds are changing. You've got office superstores competing for your business because they can't stand losing the cartridge business. They can't afford to lose the cartridge business. You got the IT reseller. You're trying to get into your business because you're trying to expand the share of wallet. And obviously you're out trying to do that. So the landscape has changed dramatically. There is a share of wallet opportunity. Why wouldn't you want that business? Why wouldn't you want to combine A4 along with A3, take over all supplies and service, and drive that business? You get new accounts, and when I say new accounts, what I'm meaning is if you had no chance to sell the copier-based products, if I were in your shoes, I'd be in there trying to sell laser printers. I'd be in there trying to sell anything in order to get a foot in the door, in order to build relationships, and in order to expand and move it upward. I'm going to say it's easy. It's easy for me to say it's easy, but I'm going to say that getting into managed print is not that difficult. First, there are consultants who can do it. We hire, just so you know, Tom Callahan. He helps us out, traveling around, works with our dealers, and we hire him in order to provide that service to our dealers. He does that work on our behalf. So there are those who can do it. The distributors can do it. We've got the Ingram Micro, Synex is represented here with their print software, a good partner of ours as well. They know what they're doing. They know how to manage this customer data. They know how to deliver reports, and they do a really good job. And then you've got your manufacturers. We have our own, that's fine. I'd like to promote, our own, but frankly, there are a lot of options available to you to build a strong managed print offering. And it paves the road. Once you're a services provider and you start thinking a little bit differently, I think once you get managed print down, I think it gives you an avenue or an opportunity to grow other services. So here's our view of managed print. On the left-hand side is really managed print light. It's just bundle up all the hardware and can you guys see over here? Does it help you if I talk? You're right. Bundle up service support and hardware. As we move to the right, you add a quarterly business review, try to review what it is you do with the clients. That's good. Strategic includes output management software that helps the client to do that on their own. If I had an arrow that I want to point to and say, where is the sweet spot, it would be on that third area. And then fourth is really a managed output scenario where you're providing bodies as well in terms of a facilities management offering. I think that's tough, depending on the size of your organization. I either would or wouldn't recommend getting into that business. It's awfully labor intensive. You need a lot of people to drive revenue, and there are probably some partners in your marketplace who would be able to do that. But this is our view of managed print. So anyway, those are the first two things out of 7 that I want to suggest to you in order to be successful in the future. Third is managed imaging services or something. So what are the options? And let me talk a little bit about what we call managed imaging services. We're in a number of different businesses. And what we like to say is that we access information, we display it, and we display it without regard to form factors, so whether that's a laptop or a tablet or a phone or on a desktop monitor or a large format display or the printed page, we access information and we display it. We talk to our dealers about expanding into that space and start selling IT products that move away from hard copy into either desktop or large format display and tablet technology, and to bundle that into an interoperable solution for customers and to charge a monthly fee for it under managed services, which you guys are better than anybody in doing. Second, I know a number of people, and probably on the docket for conversations, is remote network diagnostics and management. I know a number of you have gotten into this business, or you're working with others to try to do it. It's expensive to either buy or build a network provide the services that your customers want in terms of systems integration and other capabilities. And so I see a lot of that as people are doing this, right? So you are all either flirting with or doing some of these things. So why do it? Number one, the share of wallet. We saw the printer volume of hardware going down. You're going to have to replace that with something. So you've got these good customers. You might as well get a share of wallet. It's a differentiation. Again, your competitor is the manufacturer. They're not doing that really well in most cases. In some cases, they may be. And it's certainly a differentiation. And third is competitive resistance. So if you have the IT reseller or the VAR coming to your accounts and talking about what they're trying to do, they're trying to devalue print. So what your customers are hearing from the IT reseller is print is utility. It's not a hard thing. It's easy. I'll take care of it for you. Let me take over, all of your printers. And this is a great competitive resistance position to make. So size of the market we don't know, but I think this is the relative size of hardware in both A3 and A4 laser as compared to the wider IT space. There are lots of places you can go, right? You can go to managed print. There are a lot of other places to go, but on a relative size, it's a big market out there. Big market for you and the type of service that you provide to expand into other areas. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is be trendy. And there are 7 things here that I want to talk to you about, and all of them really revolve around bringing young people into your organization who really get the technology, and they also revolve around relying upon your manufacturer to provide you some training for these things. Because these are the things your customers are talking about. They're talking about the cloud. They're talking about what is going to be the impact on Google Docs on my business. And if I'm going to store all of this information in the cloud, what is the impact on print? What is the impact on my workers who travel and their access to it? And I gotta tell you, you gotta have people in front of your customers who are able to answer those questions and that are really up to speed on the number of differences associated with the cloud. Sustainability, you're all familiar with this. Your customers want to talk about the environment, about saving paper, about saving energy. You need to be well versed there. Mobility. What's the impact? I've got one slide on mobility, don't you know? And so what's the impact of mobility and the mobile worker and new kids who are getting out of college and joining the workforce and their expectations relative to mobile print and mobility in general. Vertical. Customers are going to want to be talked to in languages with which they're familiar and not in horizontal or generic terms. This has been obviously something that's been going on for a long time. Bring your own device, or what we think is going to be more prevalent, choose your own device. But you got to talk to your customers about what is it going to be like when the types of equipment that your employees are going to bring are going to be ones of their own choosing, whether they buy it or whether you buy it for them. That's going to be important. The virtual office, what's going to happen? There aren't many big companies that we're talking to now that aren't talking about downsizing real estate. And I'm talking to chief technology officers who say, I want to know where you're going with the technology because I want to be able to tell my facilities people what they need in real estate in the future. Because we got to downsize. We're going to go more virtual. There's the conversations that salespeople are going to have with their customers are going to be very, very different. So you need to be able to talk to your customers on that. And then you take, people bring their own devices in a virtual office. And guess what? And with mobility, and now you've got to talk to them about security. So these are the 7 things that you need to be expert on, in my opinion, expert. you either need to hire people who are experts,